Welcome everyone. I'm Carl from Filestack, and I'm glad you've joined us for this webinar in collaboration with APILayer. Today, we're addressing some common challenges developers face when building modern applications, managing user-generated content, integrating multiple APIs, and streamlining complex development processes. To illustrate how Filestack and APILayer can help solve these issues, we've created a travel app as a practical example. This app demonstrates and enhances your app with location data, flight info, and weather updates. It also implements advanced security measures and content moderation. It adds image transformation and text extraction capabilities with OCR, and we will have live coding demonstrations and expert insights. Our speakers, Rodrigo Gillian and Pratham Kumar, will guide you through the technical aspects and integration process. You'll learn how to effectively implement these solutions in your own projects and improve your development workflow. So let's begin by taking a look at our travel app and how it addresses these common development challenges. So for the complete app, what you're seeing here is a collection of postcards where we want to go to from all around the world, and we will upload it using FastStack and extract all the information using API layer APIs. So in this case, we will be using a small Django backend or Python, and we'll be using React for the front end. So in this case, we have some users, and in this one, we have Rodrigo as the user. And if you click on the Statue of Liberty, you can see a postcard related to that, where the country is, where you uploaded it from. For example, if you uploaded it from there, and the weather, which is cloudy, and the flight ticket, which we'll be using aviation stack to extract the flight information from. So in a new example, let's say I'll create a new user or select a new user and select the new trip. You can see that it's powered by Filestack as a file uploader. And for example, I want to go to Berlin and upload it there. It's uploaded. And you can see that the location, although it might be confusing, the location is where I uploaded that image of the postcard, but and the weather, which is sunny and cloudy. And now I want to upload my flight ticket going to Berlin. So for example, this boarding pass, which will extract all the details from with FastStack's OCR. Select upload, and then save. And then I'll hit refresh. And you can see it's uploaded there. Refresh. So if, for example, if you click on it, you can see that uh, the flight ticket now detects that it's going to Berlin, which was extracted from the boarding ticket with OCR from FastStack. So now to dive deeper into all of this, Rodrigo will be showcasing FastStack and then Prasam with API layer.
Okay, so right now we are going to start explaining the FalStack part, how to introduce FalStack into our application. So for this, we are going to be working with another application, but this one will be incomplete, and we are going to make all the FalStack part from scratch. So to start with this, we are going to be explaining what is the file picker, because you saw in the previous presentation, the file picker is the one who's going to be choosing the files and uploading them to our FileStack account. So if we go here into our FileStack documentation, here we're going to find this JavaScript, this file picker tab, And here we are going to find several ways to introduce, to actually add the FileStack picker into our application. But well, this is the FileStack picker that we need to add. But as you saw in our application, we are working right now with React, right? So we are going to choose FileStack actually have several SDKs, so we can work with all of them. Here, if we go to SDKs, we're going to find here several frameworks in which we can work on. We are going to choose the React one. And right here, we're going to find how to actually create a FileStack picker using the React SDK. So there are different ways to actually open the picker. The first one is the picker overlay, who is going to actually show the picker over the entire screen. The other one is a picker inline, who is going to be like embedded into our HTML, and the drop pane, who is actually going to show just the drop pane section. Well, this one can be used in different situations, but in this case, we are going to use the picker overlay because we are going to add this picker into our model. So right now, I'm going to move to my. No, this is not the correct one. Oh, where is it? Sorry. Yes. Okay, here is the screen. Okay, so for this, you know that we have already installed the the React library. So I'm just going to import this the inline uh, the inline picker. Uh, Picker inline. Okay, and right now I'm going to create here a new component. The name of this component will be, well, I'm going to import this component. Oh, sorry. When you are using the picker inline component, you actually need to add a div because this is where your component will be embedded into your HTML. And finally, we just need to add all the things that we are going, all the settings. In this case, the API key. Uh, and that's it. With this, we can actually start working with our picker. But first, we want to know what is actually happening to our files. So we are going to start using the callback functions. The callback functions are essentially functions from FileStack that will be executed when some event is happening. So I'm going to create one to know when my file has been already uploaded. I'm going I'm just going to print my file. Okay, and I will add this on upload done and my picker inline component. Okay, and that's it. Now we can run our, we can see in our application that our picker is actually working on. So right now, if I open this model, I'm going to see our picker. We are going to see our picker here, and we are going to be able to actually start uploading files.
I don't think it's um, in the center. It looks grayed out.
Okay. How it looks like? I don't know. I
Better.
can.
That's better.
Okay, perfect. It's because I'm opening this thing. So, okay. I just need to look for the file that we need to upload. So, just give me a second. Okay. For example, I'm going to select this example file and I'm going to upload it. So if I open my console, here I'm going to find that my file has been already uploaded. Here I can find a lot of things, the file name, the handle that is the specific identifier from this specific file. Here I can find more things about the original file. Here I can find the status of this file and the URL. If we load this URL into a different tab, we are going to be able to open this URL using our CDN. Okay, so I'm just going to add a um, so right now I'm just going to load this specific file once the file has been already uploaded. So for this, I'm going to create two states variables. One, when the image has been already uploaded, that is going to be actually a Boolean field, and one with the image URL. And after this, I'm going to ask if the image has been already uploaded here. If the image has been already uploaded, I'm going to actually load this specific image. I'm going to use my CDN to load this specific image. And if it hasn't, I'm going to actually load this component, my picker and line component. Okay, and right now I'm going to actually upload this image URL once that my image has been already uploaded. So for this, I'm going to get my I'm going to set my state variable with the image URL. Here you can find the image URL into the result, the files uploaded, and the URL. And just for the record, this specific file are going to this specific application is going to actually upload two different files, one image for the cover photo and one image to execute all the process about the OCR. So if the image, the cover photo, I'm going to save this image into my into my variable, so later I can save it into my database. Okay, and that's it. And right now I'm going to show you another thing that we are going to be implementing from Falsac. This new thing is about transformations. Okay. So transformation is here. Okay, actually with Falsac, you can add several transformations to your images, and it is really easy to actually execute these transformations. You can do it through workflows or through different, or through the CDN. With the CDN, it's really easy because you just need to add the transformation you want to add into your CDN. For example, you can crop or you can resize images just adding the transformation parameter here into our CDN. You can do a lot of things: resize, cropping, rotate, flip, flop, etc. In this case, we are going to execute some specific transformation that is a filter, actually, an effect that you can add to your photos. The name of this feature is Polaroid. You can see, as you can see, you just need to add this parameter into your CDN because we want to give this specific style to our photos. So if I click here into my previous CDN link, I can, sorry, write Polaroid, and the transformations will be applied automatically. It will take some time for the first time, but then you will be able to actually see this Polaroid photo. So for to add this into our code, we just need to get the file handle of this and add the word Polaroid. So for this, I'm going to create actually a new function. Upload those. Okay. Here, I just need the base CDN URL. And to this URL, we are going to add the word Polaroid and then the handle. Well, actually, I can add it here. And after this, I will save this new URL into our database. So I'm going to say the photo Polaroid, and I'm going to add this base URL. And this will be just executed for the cover photos. So when when the type is a cover photo, I'm just going to apply to use this specific function. And I'm going to send the handle of this file. Just give me a second. Okay, that's perfect. Right now, we can upload the cover photo and we can apply a transformations to it. Okay. Okay, one of the most important features from Falsac are the workflows. And you may be wondering, what are the workflows? Well, the workflows essentially are executed automated tasks that will be executed synchronously. For example, you want to check if a file is infected with some kind of malware, or you can automatically transform some specific files to a specific size to save some storage space or something like that. So with workflows, we can actually build this specific set of tasks, and we are going to be able to execute them asynchronously when we upload some specific files. Well, in this case, we are going to we are going to create two different workflows. One that will be for the cover photo, and one that will apply when we want to um, apply the optical character recognition. So I'm going to proceed and create the first workflow. For this, we need to go to our developers portal, select our API key, and then we are going to move to our workflows panel. Here we are going to create a new workflow. In this case, since this workflow will be for the cover photo, we are going to name it a cover workflow, for example. In this case, we are going to apply all the tasks that we want to be executed. First, we want to apply the virus detection task. Here is it, the virus detection task. I'm going to apply this specific task first. After that, we are going to apply the safe for work task, because we want to know if our file is actually safe for work, if it doesn't have actually violent content uh, or content that is actually not safe for work. But I think that we need to remove this specific, we want to remove the file if this is actually, if our file have actually some kind of malware, right? Because we don't want to keep malware infected files. So I'm going to remove this specific file, but just in case that it is infected with some kind of malware. So I'm going to add the infected field equals to true. And this is why the workflows are so magic. You can add specific conditions based on the previous responses. In this case, we want to remove the file if the infected field is set on true. And if not, if our file is safe, we are going to proceed with the next task. The next task, as mentioned before, is the safe for work task. We are going to check if this content is safe for work. So I'm going to add a new condition, and I'm going to add the same thing, the field infected, it's equal, in this case, to false. After this, we want to remove this file if this is not safe for work. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to remove this specific file if this is not virus, if this is infected with some kind of malware, and if it is not safe for work. In this case, if the safe for work feature is set it on true, is set it on false, sorry. If this is not safe for work, we're going to remove it. So we are done with our first workflow. So for so if you click in the picker configuration, you can actually see how you can implement this specific workflow into your application. In this case, we just need to add these options. We just need to add these options. So I'm going to copy our options and paste it into our application. Okay. So right now I'm going to, since we are going to add two different workflows, I'm going to paste two different options for this. one's for the picker photo options, and one's for the OCR. And I'm going to use two workflows IDs. Okay. Sorry. Okay, okay, okay. I'm going to send the picker options and the workflows ID here. So depending on which picker I'm going to open. Okay. Okay, and that's it. Now, before we test this, I'm going to talk more about the workflows because I need to explain something really important for the workflows. Okay, as mentioned before, the workflows will be executed asynchronously, but you may be wondering what is going to happen with all this information. And am I going to actually receive the information from the virus detection feature, from the safe for work feature? How do I know if the feature was removed, was stored, or how can I know all this information? Well, the way the workflows works is actually with the webhooks. The webhooks are essentially endpoints in which you will receive all the information from the workflows. In some in applications, you will have a backend in which you will set your specific endpoint, and you will receive all the information from your workflow through this endpoint. So right now, you can configure as an endpoint, going to configurations and selecting webhooks. Here you can select the specific endpoint you want to add. In this case, just for explanatory purposes, I'm going to use this mock server that I have created. I'm going to copy this specific link, and I'm going to paste it here. And I'm going to select that this endpoint will receive information when a workflow is executed, because webhooks can be executed not just with workflows, but with file deletions, with file overrides, with file exports, with file uploads, or file conversions. So I'm going to select workflows in this case, and I'm going to add this specific endpoint. And here is it. Now, if I now I can go to my application again, and I can upload a new file. I'm going to select my photo, and I'm going to upload it. Okay. Oh, sorry. Um, I forgot to add this into my application, right? Because we just sent the workflow ID, but we didn't add it into our picker. So I'm going back to my code. I think it's this one. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going back to my code, and I'm going to the figure. I'm going here. So right now, oh, also I forgot to set this flag in true. So set image uploaded. This will be equal to true. Okay, perfect. So right now I just need to add my options here. Just give me a second. Okay, options. Here into my picker and line component, I'm going to add the field picker options. And here I'm going to pass my options. Okay, and that's it. Now we can actually reload our web page. I'm going to reload this and I'm going to try it again. I'm going to upload it. And here I can see that in this case, my response have more fields. I can see a workflow. I can see that a workflow has been executed and I can see the job ID from this specific workflow. So right now we just need to wait. It will take some seconds or some minutes in some cases um, for the workflow to reach my endpoint. So just let's wait.
How long does this usually take?
Sometimes it takes a few seconds,
Oh,
sometimes,
no,
well,
there you go.
and here is it. I can see that the workflow has been executed, and here I can see my response. So I'm going and paste it into my into a JSON beautifier so we can check it more detailed. Here we can see all the tasks that were executed. Here we can see the virus detection task. We can see that the infected field is in false, so the infection list is empty. In case that this the infected field was set and not true, here we can find all the list with all the malwares that we have in that specific file. And for the safe for work, we can see that the safe for works field is set it on true. So we can know that my file is actually safe for work. Okay. And now that we have finished our first workflow, we are going to start with the second one. The second one will be actually a really, the second one, in the second workflow, we are going to create we are going to create a workflow that checks for the optical character recognition, because as you saw before into Carl's presentation, we are going to actually analyze the text from flag tickets. So I'm going to create a new workflow. In this case, I'm going to name it OCR workflow. And here I'm going to add the OCR task. Here's it. I'm going to add it here, and that's it. This workflow is actually finished. So I'm going to copy our workflow ID and paste it into our application. I'm going to copy this and paste it into our application. I'm going to go here into modal add and here into workflow ID 2. I'm going to paste it here. Okay, that's perfect.
For the sake of our viewers, how many workflow IDs can you create?
How many what?
Workflow IDs can you create? Is there a
Uh,
limit?
no, there's not a limit to add workflows IDs. I mean, you can create as long as you, uh, as much workflows as you want, and you can use them for different purposes. For example, like in this case, we are using one specific workflow to analyze virus detection and to check for safe for work, and another one for OCR. You can maybe add another one to precise images, or another one for some specific purposes.
Great.
Okay, and just give me a second. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm just checking the application because I need to know what I need to add. Okay, so right now, in case that the file is not a cover photo, I'm going to set my workflow. I need to save my job ID, because I need to compare the job ID with the job ID that I'm going to receive from my webhook, from my workflow. So I'm going to compare the job ID that I'm receiving into our application, and we are going to compare with the job ID with the response from the workflow to check that this file was uploaded, and this is the response from this specific file. So okay, I'm going to save this, and right now I'm going to okay. And right now I'm going to go to our backend, and I'm going to explain the function that we are executing to check for our workflows, to check for the OCR. Okay, here's it. Now that our workflow is already set, we can make a test just to check what is going on, how this actually OCR feature is working. So right now I'm going to reload this. I'm going to reload my web page, and in this case, I'm going to upload a file, but in this specific picker. So my second workflow will be actually executed. Sorry, I think my mouse is failing a lot, so sorry. Okay, for this specific workflow, we are going to be sending this kind of flight tickets, right? We have a lot of things here into these flight tickets, a lot of information, but the way that the OCR feature actually works is like separating paragraphs or yeah, separating like paragraphs of texts. Mm, Okay, if we go to our FalSec documentation here into optical character recognition, we can see how this feature actually works. When this workflow is executed, we are going to receive this kind of JSONs. In this kind of JSONs, we are going to find, for example, paragraphs, and each paragraphs will have several lines, and each line will have several words, right? So we are going to so our OCR feature are going to separate all the paragraphs here, like places where it detects some specific texts. For example, in this case, this is just one paragraph with three different lines. So we are going to find three different text areas or paragraphs in which we are going to find three different lines, right? In this case, just one text area and three different lines. Each lines will have three different words, right? This is the entire line, and this is the words from this line. After that, we are going to find the second line, and we're going to find the words of this second line. And this is how this actually works. So in this case, we are going to find different paragraphs. This one is considered one paragraph. This one is considered one paragraph. This one is considered one paragraph, and just like that. In this case, when we just want this flight number, this flight IATA. So we just need to separate these paragraphs and get this specific information. Okay, so for this, I'm going to upload this specific file and see how it works. Here I can see that my file have been already uploaded, and here I can see that workflow, the workflow. This is the workflow, this is the specific job ID. And if we go here, our webhook have already received this specific information. So I'm going to paste this and paste it into my specific, into my JSON beautifier. Here's it. As we can see, we have a lot of information here, but this is working as I mentioned it before. We are going to find the different text areas. In this case, we are going to find 11 text areas, and in each line and in each text area, we are going to find different lines. In the first one, there's just one line, and the name is boarding pass. As I mentioned it, as we see before, the name is boarding pass. The name of this line, the text on this line is just boarding pass. And then we are going to find different text areas, one for the passenger, one from the flight, one from the destination, and that's it. So we are going to use a specific function in our backend to separate these text areas. And then we are going to separate these lines and get this specific number. So I'm going to our backend to see how this specific function works. Okay. Okay, this is the function that I'm using, in which I'm separating all the text areas in different, well, I'm getting all the text areas, right? I'm getting first my data, my response, then I'm getting the results, the OCR with this specific workflow ID, and I'm getting the text areas. For each text area, I'm getting all the lines because I want to get, well, as you know, all the lines from each text area. And then I'm going to check for the text area that have specifically 2 lines, because there are some text areas with just 1 line. And for our case, we need one which contains 2 lines of code, 2 lines of text. And then I'm going to find for the text for the word flight. And when I find this, I will know that my second text are my second line, my second word, or my second line will contain the word that I'm looking for. So right now I'm executing this function, and this will be working, right? So to test this, I'm going to actually copy this specific JSON, and I'm going to use Postman. Uh, I'm going to use Postman to actually test this. Just give me a second. Okay. Okay, I'm going to open my Postman. So just give me a second. And here I'm going to call the specific URL from this application. I'm going to paste the JSON that I just received, and I'm going to send it. Sorry. Okay, here, if I send my specific JSON, I'm going to receive all the information from my specific flight that will be explained into the next section of this webinar. But here we can see that here are printed here we can print the specific flight. Here we, sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. But here we can see that we are printing the specific flight that the specific word that we're looking for, the flight data. So I think that's all for this Falstack part. We are going to continue with Pradam, who is going to explain about the API layer and how to actually implement these API layer functionalities into the application.
Alright, so in the application we have over here, we need to display the geolocations in this grid. So for that, we are going to use an API called IPStack offered by APILayer. It's one of the powerful APIs to convert IP addresses to geolocations. IPStack returns security modules as well, so you can use this API in various use cases. Here I'm going to create an function, actually an async function, because we are going to work with an API call over here. I'm simply calling this function IPStack API, maybe. In the above line, you can see I'm already importing my API keys from constant files. Again, for the best practices, I would recommend to use try and catch block while working with ASIC functions. So in case you get any error from the server, you will be able to handle it up. So here I'm first populating my catch block. So if there is any error, we're going to simply throw that error. And here in the try block, we are going to make the actual IP stack call. So my URL to IP stack API is very simple. Let me just paste it over here, and you can see I'm passing my IP stack API key as the required parameter. That's how basically IP stack works. And now next up is I'm simply gonna handle the response I will get. So I'm going to use await fetch URL. I'm simply making a get request to the URL mentioned above. And here I'm basically going to wait until the promise resolves in order to pass the response body as the JSON format, as IP stack returns data in the JSON format. So here let me just use that, and now I'm simply going to return the response, which is the response in the JSON format. Here let me go back to my API layer file. Here I just need to import the IP stack API function, and in the use effect hook where we are going to handle the events, where we are going to handle the effects, here I will simply set the response of the IP stack in the IP response variable. And now I'm going to change the state of the photo to the actual location that we get from the response of the IP stack API. And it will simply convert the image to the flag of that particular country. As you can see over here in the application, we are getting the countries flag. So that's how you can use the IP stack API in this particular use case. Alright, so the next up we response of the IP stack API, and it will simply convert the image to the flag of that particular country. As you can see over here in the application, we are getting the countries flag. So that's how you can use the IP stack API in this particular use case. Alright, so the next up we have is the weather stack API part. Weather stack API is basically an API using which you can get the weather statistics of a particular location. There are multiple ways you can query a location, maybe by name, by location, latitude and longitude, and other query parameters as well you can use to fetch the weather. Here I'm going to simply copy paste my IP stack API function which I just created. Here I just need to modify it a little bit in order to get it in a shape where we can call the weather stack API. So now here first thing I have to do is of course change the URL to the right URL. Here I'm passing the query required parameter as reason. So now I'm going to change the function name as well to weather stack API maybe. Other than that, I think other part of the code will remain the same, because we are again getting the data and we are passing it as JSON. Here I'm going to use some regex over here because this region name is coming from the IP stack API we called above. So here of course the next thing I have to do is pass this region as the weather stack API function parameter, which will come from the main API layer file. And here over here I'm going to first import the function which is weather stack API, and now here I have to set the image. For that first I need to wait until the promise resolves. So wait weather stack API, and here I'm going to pass this region name which is coming from IP stack API. So IP response dot region name, that's it. And now I have to set the weather icon. For that I'm going to change the state of the photo weather hook as weather stack response dot current dot weather icon. It is coming in the array format which you can check the response by simply printing out in the console. And I think that's basically it in order to set the weather icon. And if I go back to my application and try to check over here, as you can see, we are getting the response. So it seems like it is a bit cloudy and sunny over the particular location we have set. Great. So far so good. So the next API we are going to use is position stack API. It is basically an API that converts latitude and longitude to the address or vice versa. So starting up, I will simply again copy paste this function and do a little bit of modifications over here. First, of course, we need to change the name to position stack API. We are not going to pass the region, instead we are going to pass latitude and longitude in this case. We don't need this, and of course we need to change the URL to the position stack API right now. Let me just paste it. As you can see over here, we are passing API key and latitude and longitude as the required parameters. Now if I go back to my main file, here of course I need to import the position stack API, and here let's actually do a bit of additions. First up, I'm going to create a new variable called position response maybe, and now I'm going to use await position stack API, and now I have to pass two parameters over here. The first one is latitude, which is coming from IP stack, so IP response dot latitude, and the next one is IP response dot longitude. If I can spell it right. Great. And now I'm going to change the state of location link to the response of position stack, which is coming from position stack API, of course. And here I have to pass label. If you want to get a glimpse of what kind of a data we get from position stack, you can simply log it out. And here you can see in the application we are getting the exact location address we are based in, or I'm based in right now. So that's how you can use the position stack in this particular webinar or use case. Alright, so the next up we have is the aviation stack API. This API we are going to use for fetching the flight data. Here we have prepared some boilerplate code already just to save time. It is very intuitive. You will get an idea of what's happening over here by just looking at the code. The main function here we have is the fetch flight data. We are going to populate this function in order to get the flight information. Here let me just paste the URL of the endpoint we are going to make the API call to. For the best practices, I'm going to use the try and exception block over here. In case we get some error, we will be able to catch that up. Let's just make an get request to the URL we have mentioned above. One thing to note here is that I have set the limit 1 because I just need one flight information. And here if I get the response, I will basically setting up it to the status code 200 OK. That means if the response is coming, then we will return it in the JSON format. Oops, I think I have written the response spelling wrong over here, so yeah, it is fixed. And else I will simply and in the else block I will simply print error if there is any error while fetching the flight information. Alright, and now with the try block we have to make an except block as well. So here, if there is any exceptions, in particular if there is any requests exception in the code, then we are going to catch that exception over here in the except block. And here I'm going to print a statement so that user will get to know there is some error while fetching the flight information from the aviation stack API. So error fetching data from aviation stack. All right, so that is done. I think this code is good to go. If I switch over to my postman and try to run my local host, it should give me the data. Let me just click on send, and here you have been noticing that we are getting the data, and this data is just for the one flight because we have set the limit 1 while making the API call. And here is all the necessary information we need in order to display that on our application.
Okay, thanks Pratham, and thank you Rodrigo. That was a wonderful presentation. And just to recap before we move on to our Q&A, we created a travel app with Filestack and APILayer, with Filestack handling most of the front end with workflows and virus detection, safer work, and changing the images with image transformations. And APILayer handling the back end with IP stack, weather stack, position stack, and aviation stack. And now we move on to our Q&A. Uh, we will start with the Q&As for Filestack. Um, I'm seeing a question here. Besides the picker, is there any other way to upload files in Filestack? So this is a question
Yes,
for Rodrigo.
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, actually, besides the picker, FileStack actually offers several API requests, and actually that allows you to perform various actions, including uploading and storing files. And well, you can use APIs to gain more control over the upload process and integrate it into your application. And yeah, well, it depends on you if you want to do it through APIs or the file picker itself.
Okay. Another one that I'm seeing here is, can the picker styles be customized?
Yeah, actually, the style of the picker can be fully customized. Well, FileStack actually provides a style sheet that allows you to actually override the default classes of the picker. You just need to add this style sheet on your file, and you can modify the classes. And well, the styles will be automatically overridden. Yeah.
Yeah, enabling full customization. So third one I'm seeing is it's regarding the transformations that we did earlier. So how are they charged? So for example, the person said that if I use the Polaroid transformation, will it count as a new transformation every time?
Oh, actually, that's a really good question. And well, actually, no. For example, when a transformation is executed, it is cached for 30 days by default. During that period, you can use the transformation without increasing your transformation count. And additionally, this cache parameter can be modified to extend up to 1 year. Well, it will depend on how much you want to use that specific transformation. But no, it won't count every time you use it.
That's good to know for development's sake. And fourth one is, how long does it take to receive a response from a workflow?
The response time will depend on its complexity. If the workflow only has a simple transformation, for example, the response will be almost instant. But however, if it includes multiple intelligence tasks or more complex processing, it will take longer. The file size being processed also affects the duration of this time response.
Okay. And the last one that I'm seeing here is related to blocking certain file types. So he's asking, or he or she is asking, if we can block certain file types from being uploaded by the file stack picker.
Oh yeah, actually, yeah. This is a really good question because although this wasn't covered in detail during this webinar, you can configure the file types that the picker accepts in its options. For example, you can ensure that only images are uploaded and block other types like Excel files or something or other files by setting the accepted file types in the pickers option.
Okay. Thank you. And I'll be moving on to the API layer question ones. I see three here. So this is for Pratham. First one is, are these APIs free to use?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So all the APIs offered by API layers are basically on the freemium plan. So you can definitely use the free plan, but there is a limit on that. So maybe like 100 calls you can make in a particular month, and after that you need to subscribe to a paid plan if you want to use more. So yeah, they are basically free if you want to uh, basically integrate these APIs into a smaller applications.
Okay. So the second one is connected to it. Like, how do they get these API keys?
Yeah, so like API layer offers like so many APIs. So if a particular API is available on the API layer marketplace, you can definitely sign up to API layer marketplace, and then you will get access to the particular API. But if there is a standalone API like IPStack or WeatherStack, which we have used in this webinar, you have to go to their websites, like let's say ipstack.com, and there you can simply sign up. It will take you to the dashboard where you will find your API key.
Okay. So the third one, again, is actually related to the first question. Is they're asking what happens if they exceed the request volume of the API?
Yeah, there are two cases over here. If a particular user is on free plan, then you will get an error if you basically make use of all the requests you are allowed to make. But if you're on a paid plan, then it will automatically take you to the soft limit, which is like a very minimal cost. For example, if a particular API offers, let's say, 25,000 API calls in a paid plan, then after completing your 25,000 calls, it will start charging, let's say, $0.001 per call. So very minimal fees. This makes sure that you won't block your application and it will continue to access a particular API. So there's a soft limit.
Okay. And lastly, I see. Actually, I think I can answer this one. They're asking if how do they travel? How do they register for the Travel App API? Correct me if I'm wrong. Pratham, this is aviation stock, right?
Uh, I'm not sure if they're asking for this particular application that we built in this webinar or just a particular API.
Yeah, I think someone is asking a Travel App API, so they can register for that via aviationstack.com. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And then I think that's all the questions we have. Thank you all for attending today's webinar. We hope you found the information valuable and applicable to your web development project, specifically API-based backends and some workflows and image transformations. As a reminder, the code, all the code here demonstrated will be available via GitHub, and a recording of this webinar will be uploaded to our YouTube channel for future references, for either through Filestack YouTube channel or API Layers YouTube channel. We appreciate your time and appreciation, and if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at support@filestack.com or via support@apilayer.com. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you again.